Hi guys, Yacca here. So first, a word of warning. There will be some science content in this video. Don't run away screaming. I'll try to explain it to the utmost of my abilities and try to make it as easy to grasp as I possibly can. And there will probably be someone out there even more of a nerd than I am that will go in and say, well, you actually explained this wrong and you can use it like this, or you don't use the math like that and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine. Drop that in the comments. Let me have it. This is how I would like to make this in a way that really translates into Hearthstone. It's really focused around the Mulligan strategy, but you can apply this in multiple different ways, in deck building strategies and all these kind of things. So why do I want to do this? A little bit on my background. I have a master's in international technology management, and as a part of that we have a semester, that's the entire theme of that semester, but we did have statistical analysis as part of that semester. And it's really been an interest of mine for a very long time, and I don't apply this on a usual basis, so I actually had to go back in time and find some old stuff and finding some knowledge that I knew were out there and try to brush it off and make it into something that is Hearthstone compatible. But with my educational background, the person I am, I'm just a huge nerd, and how this actually connects to the game, that's kind of the motivation for making this video. And we will double back into, now Evolved Shaman have been nerfed now, but from a probability standpoint, how do you use probability to prove or to summarize how did Evolved Shaman even get so good? Because Box by Knuckles as the core centerpiece of that deck actually has been there for two full expansions. It was from Ashes of Outlands, and that is the one before the last. Skullman's Academy was before this one, Darkmoon Fair, and the one before that were Ashes of Outlands. So it's actually been around for a very, very long time. So has Dread Corsair. So why did it all of a sudden become a problem? I'll explain that to you, but let's head on into the basic explanation of how a mulligan works in Hearthstone. First off, how to explain the draw and mulligan phase of Hearthstone. Not all people know this. If you've been around for a while, you do know this, but I want to cover everything from the start and right up until we talk about the statistics and probability and stuff like that. So if you're still hanging around, we'll go through the basic stuff. If you want to get more advanced, just skip towards the mid to end of the video, and I will go through some heavy stuff there. But I borrowed from one of my kids this game of Go Fish, but it serves the purpose of explaining that you have a deck of cards. So in this deck of cards, if you're not on the coin, you draw 3 out of those. That's 4 there. So 3 cards. And you have your deck that is sitting there on the side. Then if you say, well, I can't use any of these, then you put those not on the deck and shuffle it, but you put those to the side. And then you pick 3 new cards off the top of your Go Fish game, and those are out of the 27 cards that's left here. And then what happens? Well, you choose these, or you get these 3 new cards, and then the ones that you put aside, they go back in the deck. And of course they're shuffled and stuff like that. And then you have 27 cards again. So this means, talking about probability, the probability is higher for you to get a certain card in the mulligan phase, because those 3 cards that you chose, that you do not want those in the mulligan in the starting hand, they are not part of the cards that you draw from in the very, very first phase. And that is really important in order to try and get the cards that you really, really need in order for this to work. And then if you're on the coin, the probability is even higher, because then it's 4 cards, and those 4 cards are put aside, and then you are actually drawing 4 new cards, and then there's, then the probability is higher. So out of explaining that from this game of Go Fish, the notion, the idea behind the mulligan phase being so important, so strategically important, working with the probabilities, that hopefully a little bit of a basic example there shows you how important this is, that you have to consider that those 3 or 4 cards are put aside, and then you draw from the remaining cards in your deck. And that's really important. So remember that. They're put aside, and the rest of the deck is what you actually draw from, and not from the complete set of cards. We are then starting to touch upon the probability of you drawing a card. I'd like to bring 2 examples to you guys. One is the Evolved Shaman, which has been nerfed, but from a probability standpoint, it doesn't really matter. You still have your Cage Match Custodians and your Box by Knuckles. Even though the deck is a little bit worse off, from a probability standpoint, they're still the same cards that is available. So that's the one deck to consider. But the other one, from a really early mulligan perspective, where you could apply the same notion of getting this, could for instance be Born Warrior, where you have your 2 Corsair Cash and your 2 Wrench Calibers. So exactly the same logic. You have 4 cards that you need to draw in either deck. So what is it that you then could, there's 4 cards that you need to draw, you have 30 cards, then the probability is 4 on top and out of the 30, and then you calculate the probability. That's actually not the case. It's a very crude approximation, which is then not really what you want to go for. In statistics, you have a binomial function, which also comes really close to describing much of it, where you have like a distribution along a center, and that is good for large sample sizes. But when you have a finite sample size, you actually go into something called hypergeometric distribution. And that is where, if you go back to the game of Fish, whenever you draw a card, the population, the sample is lower. You draw another card, then the chances do increase each and every draw that you make up until, there's 1 card left, then you are on 100% to draw the card if we're at the very bottom of the deck. So what you need to know is how many cards, what's the sample size, how many draws do you actually have in order to draw 1 or more specific cards? What do you deem a success? For instance, for those 2 cases of Born Warrior and Evolved Shaman, I deem that what I want to draw in order to make the deck work conceptually is 4 cards in each, like the Corsair Cash and the Wrench Caliber for Born Warrior, and Cage Match Custodian and Box by Knuckles for the Evolved Shaman. So that you also know. How many do you need? Well, you actually only need 1, because they tutor the card that you need. The card that you need is either the Box by Knuckles or Wrench Caliber. That's the weapons. But the other 2, if you draw them in the mulligan or just before you hit turn 4 or 5, because on turn 5 that's where you play the Box by Knuckles, if we take that as an example, then you're good. You just need to draw it before that. And there's a bunch of other examples where you say, if you have a lightning bloom and you're on turn 3 and you do have the Box by Knuckles, then you could draw it. But if you just look at the core idea behind the probability, you need to draw it at least on turn 5, and then you play it. So that's kind of the idea why it's hypergeometric distribution that we're talking about is because you have a finite sample size and you do not put the cards back whenever you've drawn it. You looked at it, it weren't that one, then you put it back in the deck. That's not the case. You remove it from the deck and the sample size has changed into a smaller one, and that is why you use the hypergeometric function or the hypergeometric distribution in order to determine draw probabilities over the course of the initial stages of the game. So now we're starting to get into the little bit more nerdy stuff. Hope you're still sticking around. I will talk specifically into the function. I'll show you that. We will not use too much time on it, but I just want to make sure that you've seen the mathematical equation from which all of this is coming from. Ta-da! There you have it. Nerdy stuff inbound. I will not use too much time on this, even though it tickles my science endeavors. It's just this is kind of the formula as it is for calculating exactly a specific amount of successes that you need or want. So the large N is the complete number of the sample size that you have available. How many cards do you actually draw from the entire deck, and how many is available at that point in time? So you could also use it to, for instance, if you need to find lethal within 3 turns, you can also use it mid-match. But trying to calculate this mid-match is probably a little bit too much of a stretch. But the idea is there that you can have this. Usually with hypergeometric functions, there's lists available saying, well, you have the sample size of this many, you have this many possible successes. What is the opportunity for me to draw one or more, whatever might be the case, over the course of 1 or more turns? So that's kind of how, if you really want to dive into this, then you have your tables next to you and you can just look it up. You can't do the math mid-game. If it's something that is really important, then you can operate a deck around that, but I don't think this is really viable. This is in order to understand the Mulligan and the science behind that. So the large N, as I mentioned, is the population size. The large K is the possible successes you can draw. For instance, if you again, let's talk about the Evolved Shaman. You have your 2 Cage Match Custodians and your 2 Box by Knuckles. So that's 4 cards. That is actually something that you say you want one of those before turn 5. So you, for instance, in the Mulligan, that's what you want to go for. And then you have your small n, that's the number of draws you have available, and the small k is the successes that you want. For this calculation, you say that, well, what is the probability of me drawing? I guess you could calculate it saying, what is the probability of me drawing 0 of these cards? And then you can inverse it. So you need to just calculate that one. What is the exact probability for me to draw exactly 0 when I get to turn 5 out of this larger population, out of this many cards? And then you inverse it saying, well, that's the opposite probability then, is that I draw, if you don't care if you've drawn all 4, or 3, or 2, or 1, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you have at least 1 and not 0. So all of these other probabilities, you could calculate all those together and add them up to be whatever is the probability of you drawing 1 to 4, or you can just calculate it the other way around, saying, what is the probability of me drawing exactly 0? We won't go into a specific calculations. You have your Excel spreadsheets. You can do this somewhat easily. You need to learn about the function in there, but if you know these different, the population size, the number of draws, the number of successes available, and the number of successes that you want or need, then you will be able to do this calculation within Excel spreadsheets. I don't know why there's not been made a hypergeometric calculator for Hearthstone. It seems relevant, But there are already for other card games, like Magic the Gathering, have like if you search up, I won't do any specific referral in the description of this, I won't, because you can just Google, for instance, MTG or Magic the Gathering Hypergeometric calculator, and then you'll find different hits there. It's up to you guys if you want to go down that path, but there you can find like the probability tools for that. But it has broader applications than this, because you could also say, well, if I need to have like dragons in your deck and you need to draw, what is the probability if I have 8 dragons that I have at least 1 dragon by turn 4? You can also use this for stuff like this. So that's another application of it, but this kind of explains, that's the next part of it. We'll pan away from the formula, even though it looks so great. We'll pan away from the formula, and then I will explain the exact probabilities from the old Evolved Shaman to this Evolved Shaman that we have right now, and then you will definitely see why it is so much better now than it was in the past. As you can see, I had to move stuff a little bit around. But going into explaining how this works specifically for the Evolved Shaman. So in this new Evolved Shaman, as opposed to the last one where you have 4. So going from top to bottom, I can't see what I'm showing you all at the same time, so I have to make sure that I look at the numbers. But if you do a full mulligan, just out of the mulligan when you're not on the coin, you actually have a 39.5% chance already at the mulligan, because you put those 3 cards that I mentioned in the beginning to the side and you have a smaller sample size. So already there you have a 39.5% chance of drawing what you need, which is one of those 4 cards. Then if you're on the coin and then you do not get them in the mulligan, you still have a chance from the hypergeometric distribution that you draw into a smaller sample size. And by turn 5, you need to drop the box by knuckles. And there on turn 5, you actually have a 72.4% chance of sitting with one of the 4 cards that you need if you did a full mulligan in the beginning. I was playing some practicing matches and we were talking about, well, I actually have a good starting hand. Why don't I keep that and then I just draw it down the line? And we were talking a little bit about this. And this actually puts the hammer to the nail, so to speak, on that specific suggestion explanation. It is, of course, contingent of matchups. You might be able to, well, I really need to, if you're a Bomb Warrior, I need to keep the Minefield because that's a card I need if I'm up against like a Demon Hunter, which is an aggro Demon Hunter, probably, maybe, because then I'll be run over or whatever might be the case. You just need to know that you sacrifice each and every card that you have for some probability that you will not draw into what you want to need. So in this specific example, saying, well, I keep my entire hand, I want it because they are great early game cards. Then in order for you to try and draw one of the cards you need by turn 5 is actually only 34.2% chance to draw what is a core piece of making your deck work. That is really poor. If you're on the coin, of course, the chances are a little bit higher. You have a broader hand, you have a smaller sample size that you actually need to draw from when you start drawing and stuff like this. So then it is at a 52.9% chance, but still half the time you will end up not sitting with the card that you need in order for this to work. And so the mulligan phase is really where you win and lose a lot with both Bomb Warrior and Evolved Shaman. So hopefully this can set it, so to speak, a little bit straight on why you really have to consider this in the mulligan. So if you continue down, you are on the you can see the percentages there, but even in your best case scenario, when you had box by knuckles at that point in time, you had the same, a 52.9% chance. In the best case, that's where you did a full mulligan on the coin, and you drew until turn 5, and then on turn 5 to have the box by knuckles. That was only a 50-some% chance of you doing that to get the most powerful card that you had in the Evolved Shaman deck. Fair enough, you had Explosive Evolution, you had your box bind clackers at that point in time, but they were revolving around that you need to have something else on the board. You can't play something specifically and then hitting with the weapon and evolving a complete entire board. So it worked kind of good, and you had other options, but they were not nearly as good at tutoring out the box by knuckles as you had right now. So this really, from the very best case that you could have hoped in the past, to a situation where the 72.4% chance that you have now, and that's even not on the coin. So that's where you actually, with this, hopefully see how Evolved Shaman got pushed really hard and heavy into the meta as it is. That was through the inclusion of Cage Match Custodian. Everyone probably knew this, but here are the percentages behind what made the deck so consistent and so good. I think this is enough rambling about the math. If you want to see me try and dive into more around this, I'll do my best to do so, but this is the general idea behind the math, both from the Mulligan concept and the math behind it, and some percentages where you really have to consider, even though you have a good card in the Mulligan, what will this affect from... How does this affect my percentage of drawing cards that I really, really need in order for making a specific matchup work, or getting a specific combo revolving around something in the deck to work? So that's the math. That's what I wanted to show from a theory, science perspective. I guess you could call it that. And we will end on some gameplay with the Bomb Warrior, just so you can see how it actually matters a little bit in the Mulligan and how it transitions over the course of the game. Just wanted to say, do comment if there's anything that is unclear, or I can try and explain it a little bit. I can do a follow-up or whatever. I hope I've done both the math, the game, and everything justice. If you do like stuff like this, I do hope you drop that subscription. I have bunch more stuff to come out. It's usually gameplay. It's around different aspects of the game, and this is just something that hit my mind. I really enjoy doing this, and it motivates me a bunch to do stuff like this and other things. Whenever I do see that subscription button being hit, or you do comment, it really blows my mind. It's so great to see. Now I'll stop, and you'll get to see the gameplay. Alright, as you can see here, it's not really that you're incentivized to keep this, but if you are, for instance, expecting like a token druid or whatever, then maybe I should keep a Bladestorm, or Dr. Kresidov is really great in conjunction with Range Caliber. Well, you don't have Range Caliber, so you want to do a full mulligan and really increasing your stats, or increasing your percentage chance of you drawing into Range Caliber or a Corsair Cache. And here we're spoiled with both, and now we just need to hit that druid in the face so many times that he doesn't know what's up or down. And then I will even be able to coin Range Caliber on the next turn. Oh, not on the next, I'll do Corsair Cache. Then on turn 3 I can coin Range Caliber. Oh no, ramp. We will end that one as well. And what is important that we need to use this wrench caliber so we don't tip our hand, showing that we have the other wrench caliber in here already. Good, a slow turn. Oh, I needed that. Then I'll do the ramp, man. Hit you. Then we'll just start to draw into stuff, controlling the board, shuffling bombs. He actually has a chance to armor out of range, so we have to find Blastmaster Boom after this as soon as you can. So cutting class is really great here. So I can actually get rid of that one. I think I should. We'll draw first. Minefield is great. Next time we can do this and control the board. Word of warning, I should have done it in the other order. Hit first, then hit in, because I can use the armor for something with my shield slams. Now I don't have any armor. The other way around, I would have had 2 armor. That was a misplay. Small one, but it might end up mattering. And then Dr. Krastinov is potentially really good here. Of course, it depends on if he drops a small minion, maybe. One could hope. That's not a minion, buddy. And I just want to draw for my stuff here. Brawl could be fine. Managing a large board. We'll just shuffle in even more bombs. It's a quite straightforward plan once you get to it. No real or great surprises there. But so it's really the mulligan part, the early stages of the game is really important. Double minefield will actually take care of that, and I think that is worth it. Armor up, hit face. I do have other weapon charges in my hand, so this is a good enough choice. And then he draws 3 bombs. No, okay, fair enough. I do have options here. I can go directly into the next weapon, or I can try to do a little bit of control. Ooh, drawing cards, that's dangerous. Is he gonna burn something? Just not a bomb, right? Oh, he's not. Okay. That didn't do a lot. Why didn't he wait? Could have drawn another one. I'll develop a minion here as well.
Treasure? Loot? What more can I ask for?
I do want to upgrade. I don't think his list has room for that much weapon removal. So I think it's fine. Just usually, or during the Evolved Shaman era, I've been so concerned about the sticky fingers. It might still be there, but I would have been so concerned about sticky fingers that I wouldn't have upgraded until I were on the last durability of the weapon. But here I had the leftover mana and it seemed perfectly fine. Uh-oh. Slow turn. Ah, not so slow. Well, there might be muscles, but I have Deathwing. I'm just giving myself a 12-12. It could have been that I had a 4-2 on a 12-12, but this way I guarantee I will have a 12-2 left over that he needs to deal with somehow. And he can do that. He has a bunch of ways to do it, but he needs to deal with it. Oh no! Whatever will I do? I'll do this. And if Deathwing survives, there's no justice in the world. Okay. And then I will just do this. On the next turn, I can drop Dr. Krastenov and hit in. Kinda gets me there, but not quite. And if he develops another board, then I have to brawl again. And he has 5 bombs in there, out of 14 cards. Are you gonna pull the Yogg on me? And you get another Yogg. Naughty you. Why don't you just draw into my bomb? Draw a card. Not now, because now it'll be burnt. There's no one for him to betray, man. Hit your own face. Or that one. Oh no. If this is oh my Yogg, I have a challenge with the brawl. I would really like to draw onto shields or shield block. That would be great. Never surrender is fine, because then we brawl. And then we hope there's no justice in the world. There's some kind of justice apparently. And he will not draw into anything because he has 10 cards in his hand. So what are we doing here? Are we just armoring up? We're pushing in another bomb. Guess we'll draw first. Again, the challenge is either I need to beat him down. Oh, that's a good burn. Because now he needs to play something. And he has 5 bombs left. Are you gonna Yogg me again? Oh, okay. I think that will be it, because you just need to be hit once. Thank you so much for giving me an excellent ending on this game. So I got to show you exactly how the Mulligan works. We get a bunch of XP, we get some gold. There we go. We rank down. So I'll leave a deck code in the description for this Bomb Warrior specific. There's more out there, but this really suited my purpose of showing you how the statistics, the probability of the hypergeometric functions, the mathematical, the science behind this actually works. If you stuck through to the end, you are awesome, because it was kind of heavy content. But thank you so much for watching and sticking on through to this. And see you in the next one, guys.